Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Happy Hippy Me. We are so happy to have you here joining us for our Wellness Wednesday. My name is Pili Bailey, and this is my lovely cousin.
Hi, I'm Wendy Vaughn.
And we are all about sharing the health and wellness journey that we're on and the practices that have worked for us. And we hope that these can be helpful to you on your health journey as well. And so today, the day after Christmas, 2018, we are wanting to really just set some intention around taking stock of our year and what are the lessons that we have learned this year, and what are some of the things that we're looking forward to for the new year. So we just wanted to open this discussion. We're going live here on Facebook, so we're offering this up to you as well. If you're watching live with us, then please give this some thought and type it into the comments. We want to hear from you as well. What are some of your takeaways this year? What are some of the things that you have learned? Some of the highs and the wins that you've had, and what are these things that you want to take with you into 2019?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pili. I couldn't have said it better myself as I navigate some of our behind the scenes tech stuff. So please make sure to share this with anybody that you think could benefit. And once again, as Pili said, a lot of the things we discuss on Happy Hippy Me are what worked for us, possibly our friends and family, and definitely for your guidance. Definitely, if anything sounds like it really resonates with you, if you have a professional healthcare practitioner, doctor, somebody who works with you, definitely check things by that person before diving into any of our recommendations that have worked for us. So yeah, takeaways for 2018, man. First of all, it's hard to believe that this year is already coming to an end. We've had so many wonderful, it was really fun. 2018 was a really fun year. And what did we do for New Year's? Were we in town together, Pili? I don't even remember now.
I don't remember New Year's.
I know. Yeah, New Year's isn't striking a bell, but it most certainly, in general, was a productive year. It was a year of a lot of growth, positive growth, and I think being aware in that growth process. So I guess, do you want to share one of yours first, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Wendy and I, when we were first getting ready to do this, she asked me, "Do you have your takeaways?" And I was like, "No." Because it's really difficult for me. I have a really hard time summing up my life, my lessons, my journey. I often feel like it kind of sneaks up on me. Like I'll be in the middle of having a conversation with usually Wendy or somebody like Wendy, and I'll hear myself say something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, there it is. There's the lesson, Right. So it usually comes out in the span of talking about it. So I guess maybe I'm a verbal processor.
Nice.
And so as I really thought about it, what were some of the key things that have really impacted my life this year? And so number one is the work. And you've probably heard me talk about this on almost every single Happy Hippy Me video, but the work of Byron Katie and is a way of processing our emotions and the thoughts that underlie or cause those emotions, and really dissecting the thoughts around events that have happened in our lives, and being able to choose how I'm going to react or respond to those circumstances around me. So I could have a car accident. Knock on wood, not going to happen. But say something bad happened. I had a car accident. Somebody cut me off, in the road. Right. So I can. What will happen usually? Well, the first thing, adrenaline's going to hit, right? Adrenaline's going to hit. That fight or flight thing is going to happen, and then my mind is going to start to write a story about that event. So that person cut me off. They are such a jerk. They didn't care about me. They didn't even, they weren't even trying to keep me safe. All the things that your brain is going to come up with, right? And so that line of thinking is going to lead me to have an emotion, and that emotion will probably be anger or outrage or whatever. And so then, they've kept going. I'm in the car. I'm shaking from anxiety. And now the thoughts in my brain have stoked up the fires of anger. And so now I'm driving with anxiety and anger, and who the heck knows how that person is feeling, but I'm the one that's suffering, right?
Right.
So what I've really been able to do as I was introduced to the work, and as I've really been working on the work, is to really look at, okay, how am I feeling? What is the thought that I had that caused me to have this feeling? And is that thought true, or can I change the thought? Can I change the thought to something else that could be equally as true? Like, that person didn't see me. It was, an accident. How grateful am I that nothing happened to me or that other person? Can I change the anger piece to a thought process of, wow, I am so grateful that my reaction time was good. I'm so grateful that I was looking at the road and was able to make last minute adjustments. I'm so grateful that I'm still on the road to wherever it is that I'm going. And so just by merely changing the way I've been thinking about the events in my life over this last year, and it's not easy, but it does become, as I've kept practicing it, it does become more second nature.
Right.
I have found that I've had a lot more peaceful days and a lot more just, things are rolling off my back like water off of a duck, as opposed to me getting mired down by the events in my life. And so I feel that that is something that is a definite lesson. It's a definite tool that I have in my tool belt to take with me into next year.
That's perfect. So just to recap, the work is that the name of the book?
No, the name of the book is Loving What Is. But if you go to thework.com, you'll hear all about who Byron Katie is and what she's about. And I would love to go. Like, she does retreats in Ojai. Oh my God. We totally have to do it.
Oh my God. I just want to go to Ojai. But what I would I don't know, ever since I used to see it on that show, Brothers and Sisters, and they have farms and stuff, I was like, I want to go there. But I'm laughing thinking about Christmas Eve, which was just a couple of nights ago. And what I was talking about in the past, like, part of my story is that I Am Wendi with an I. That's like the platform that I'm launching as like my entrepreneurial self-love, for self is also love for everybody else, kind of like compassion movement. And so at one point in my life, I was so extremely accommodating and felt that really sticking up for myself and defining myself sometimes like it required me to tell others no. It required me to clarify and let people know how I felt. And sometimes that was really uncomfortable. So now I'm finding that when people do things or say things that are really off color, I actually have like an anger response opposed to a sad response or a response that I did something wrong, I'm a bad person response. And because the wanting to please everybody part of me would not allow the real wants and the real desires of my heart to completely shine in all situations. And this is all within like a total loving and like respectful kind of plane. I'm not talking about, oh, I want that, it's yours, I don't care, I want it, I'm gonna take it. Not in those kind of ways. I'm talking in like very just setting boundaries and who I am and setting things straight. And so I had a really interesting exchange with a very close family friend member on our Christmas Eve. And as I walked in, I gave her a compliment and gave her a big hug. And she thought, and I'm sure it came out of a loving place. That's how I'm choosing to look at it, right? That's how I'm choosing to look at it. She kind of gave a very critical not said in a hateful tone, though, if I'm going to be honest. It wasn't said out of a hateful tone, but a very also of her generation centric kind of remark that I don't think she meant anything by it. She was just talking, and I'm sure she didn't think twice about it. And I know she didn't because of the interactions that continue to happen throughout that night. But for me, I was happy for a couple of things. I was happy that I didn't internalize the comment and feel bad about myself because I had done nothing wrong. Guys, when people try to tell you about what you should be doing and they know nothing about your day-to-day life, just know that's their opinion and that's all it is. Okay? If it strikes you and attaches itself to you in any way, wonder why. Ask yourself, okay, was this person saying something that could have been true? But don't internalize it to make yourself be wrong and the bad guy. That does not work. That does not work. So I was happy that I didn't go there with it. I was also happy that I kind of like bossed up for myself a little bit. And if the opportunity went any further, I was ready to have a conversation. I was ready to just simply say, hey, I've been blah, 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 blah. Everybody had a choice. This wasn't my choice to, I was able to say it and not be like, everybody has a choice, crying, like back in the day. And I literally saw the growth in I Am Wendy with an I. And, maybe it just is saying those words and realizing who I am in that. But I know that is the work, I guess you're saying, because I know where that exact interaction would have taken me just a year before.
In the past, right?
Yeah.
That's good. So no, I know we just
So one of my it's kind of a good segue. One of my takeaways, my first one for 2018 is to consider the context. And I really got the word context from Miss Michelle Obama, because she talked about it in her book, how important it is to realize that every single person that you come into contact with has a past. They have a whole life that you may or may not be privy to, and experiences, and all of those shape what you get in front of you when you're interacting with that person. And if you consider the fact that you don't know what they just got done dealing with, and there's just no way for you to know everything, and nor is it able for other people to know what you've just gone through when they see you. I know a lot of people, when they see me now, they could never imagine me bald or in a hospital, or somebody who, just was where I was in some of my, I guess you can say more obviously vulnerable times. And so I'm definitely healthy. I'm very excited. I want to help other people be healthy. But sometimes I still have things that might come across based on my context. And I don't think people are mind readers anymore. Wow, I can't believe I just said that. That really just came out of my mouth at 1:05 p.m. Perfect.
What? People can't read your mind?
No, people cannot, even though I feel I can read everyone's mind. No, but anyway, that's not the point. The point is...
Yeah, I always feel that way. I'm like, oh, people know exactly what I'm thinking and feeling right now.
Yeah, no, you don't know what I'm feeling right now? Like,
don't matter my husband. And he's just like, huh?
We require so much of the people that we're around on a day in, day out basis. Like, yeah, for sure. I think that because we share the same blood, and oh my goodness, don't be a sibling, or like you said, I don't have a husband, but I have a boyfriend, and it's like, how many hours do we spend together a week? And you don't know. I'm playing. But knowing all of that, it's still important to communicate, and you have to use your words. And then it also makes you more compassionate of the person in front of you. And it makes you more compassionate to yourself. I don't know if anybody has ever had this occur, but maybe sometimes you look at yourself like, you're smart. You know that you can accomplish things. Like, you've proven this to yourself. But then you get into a moment where something is a little more difficult to grasp. And you kind of start to beat up on yourself. Or like, if the victory that you're trying to go after doesn't happen in like the first or second try, you're kind of like upset with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things, I think remembering your own context helps your compassion to yourself and really make that whole ease into where you're not, crucifying yourself for not always being perfect and getting things right the first try. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't a cop out to not push yourself, but it is to be more gracious and loving toward yourself, because depending on the day you had, you may not have got enough sleep or as much time to start doing XYZ. You may have had to deal with your husband's stuff, your whoever stuff, things out of your control, but you're still
business, and client calls you and they decide, oh, well, I can't make it today. I got my period. I have cramps. And you're just like, I've rearranged my whole day to go meet you and work with you. But I have to understand that for them, that was really hard for them to move out of that space and into a space that potentially could help them to feel better. I think it's funny. I used to try to get out of doing things. Like, I was in a ballet class when I was in college and I had cramps, and I told the teacher, I said, I think I'm going to sit out today because I have cramps. And she's like, actually, if you move, you'll feel better.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, you can't sit out. Now, of course, I was getting a grade on that, so I had to listen to her. But I find that a lot of times when we have situations in our lives that we feel like there's no consequence to back out, that we're willing to back out. And I feel that, kind of what you're saying, and it's something that, like, my son's school talks about, is developing a growth mindset in our kids. So, like, really, in order to develop a growth mindset in our kids, we have to have a growth mindset with ourselves. And growth mindset really is based in self-compassion, because no one is going to be perfect at doing something the first time. And so if we have an idea that I have to be perfect at this, or else I can't do this, or I don't want to look stupid, or I don't want people to see me fail, or whatever, then, we might miss out on opportunities that we could have walked through. But we also have people, young people, watching what you do, watching what we do. So when we have those young people watching what we do or don't do based on our insecurities, or based on our feelings of inadequacy, they learn, well, forget it. I couldn't do it the first or the second try, so I'm just not going to try. Well, think about all the things they have to learn and all the things they have to try to do for the first time. If a baby decided, nope, I fell over, I'm never going to try a walk again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like,
that wouldn't work.
It would not work. Right. So we have to move into that in our actual day-to-day life, within our careers, within our relationships, within our home life, being willing to try something you've never tried before, and being willing to move forward in it, and being willing to offer yourself compassion if it doesn't come out the way you think it should, or the way other people think it should. And I feel like that's something that I live in because I'm a mom. And I don't know what happens to women when they become mothers, or if it's just the climate of the day, but there's so much pressure on you to be a perfect mom.
Right.
I just watched Bad Moms Christmas, and I get so much good therapy out of watching Bad Moms, okay? Because it's like you have to just say, bleep it. You know what I mean? You just have to say, for like, some days you have to say, I am a human. I am good enough. I am doing the job as well as I can. And I'm not perfect. And I'm a human. And I have, my blueprint that I was raised from. And then I have to make a choice. Is this the same blueprint I want to live by, or do I want to change it?
Right. Literally.
Dream with no GPS, you might go down the wrong road. But you have to be willing to go down that road and then go, you know what? I think I'm going to turn down this other street, and do it without having somebody telling you what to do. And you know what I mean? And then being willing to say, all right, I tried my best, and I don't know. So sorry if I just went off on a rant, but
No,
self-compassion,
but
you got me like with that self-compassion.
I think what now what I'm learning too is like not being making it real. So like sometimes like, okay, like, you want to have like your normal reaction and then you're like, ah, that's not self-compassion. So you're like, I love you, self. It's kind of like it takes a little bit of time. So don't even when like you're first doing it, you can't beat up on yourself for not truly feeling it, because eventually you'll start looking at stuff. I mean, it literally happens so quickly. The moment I really like start letting go and just go, you know what, it's cool. It'll be all right. Like it really is all right. Like just sometimes saying it even before you feel it helps usher in the feeling.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think that's cool.
I learned to talk to myself this year. No, no,
hey,
but like,
it's important.
if you think about it, like, we're always getting bombarded with so many messages, and the messages are sometimes, they're sometimes auditory, they're sometimes visual, and we hear these messages, we feel these messages, we live in cultural norms that give us these messages. And sometimes the messages that have been sent to us are not messages for our ultimate good.
No.
And so we have to be able to discern what is the truth for us, and what path do we want to walk down. Just because everybody is walking down this road, just because a bunch of Pinterest moms decided that this is the way to throw a birthday party, does not mean that I need to kill myself trying to make a unicorn cake and little handmade doilies. I don't need to do that. I will be the party at the park with one balloon and some cake bought from the store and a pizza. Yes. Like I'm choosing my path. Okay. And my path is not to stress myself out.
We also have to think, and especially when the kids are so little, what do they really want? Like, how many times have you gone out of your way to get something for your son, and he plays with like the most insignificant part of it, like the box, or like just something that wasn't even the main focal point? I think some of us who get bogged down with the how things are done, that's for them, that's for them. It's not for the kid. It's like impressing themselves with whatever. That's hilarious, by the way. I like that. Handmade toys.
Yeah. So, all right. So going to my second point.
Okay.
So my second point is antidepressants are not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
All right. So if you've watched our previous videos, you know that I talked a little bit about my journey with depression. At the beginning of 2018, I had been on antidepressants for a year, and then I chose to come off of them because I wanted to try to do things differently. I wanted to try to manage with some other tools. Right. And so I did that for, I would say, the first 6 months of 2018. And everything was going fine. January, February, March, and then April hit, and it was like the proverbial poop hit the fan, and I really had a struggle internally between my internal philosophy, right? Which is, if it can be done naturally, I prefer to do it naturally. If it can be done with plants and herbs and fruits and berries, I prefer to do it that way. But as we have spoken before, I am not against Western medicine or the advances of science, because I am a scientist. I do believe that that has been given to us for a purpose. But I have also seen that a lot of our advances are at the exclusion of some of our that have been used for centuries and centuries and ages of old. And so I'm recognizing that we're having more cancers. I'm recognizing we're having more mood disorders. I'm recognizing we're having more, systems in our bodies that are going offline. They're just deciding, you know what, I don't recognize you as part of me, so I'm going to attack you, causing autoimmune diseases. And so I'm recognizing that a lot of these things are happening. We're not asking the questions, why are these things happening? What are the things that are happening in our environment and causing us? And so I feel like there's a groundswell happening, and that groundswell is saying, there is a cause, let us find this cause. And until we find this cause, let us pull back on using some of the chemical laden things that we're always,
just told to take.
Right. So with the particular thing of antidepressants, I talked to my doctor about this, and I got to the point where I was like, it just seems very odd to me that women, and women in particular of childbearing age, have such a struggle with depression. And what is going on in our life, what is going on in our communities, what is going on in our homes, what is going on in the culture, the way we expect women to operate within this culture, that is feeding this epidemic of depression among women of childbearing age. And so I really, really had to struggle with this, because there was another part of me that, I do have the conspiracy theorists of the big bad pharma and them just wanting us to be leashed to these pills all the time.
Right.
And I don't want it. I did not want to be on anything all the time. So I really had to struggle with that, like that core place in me. And then also look at, well, how is my mental health affecting the people I love? How is it affecting me? How is it affecting my business? How is it affecting, because I'm an entrepreneur, I work with people, me not being well means my business is not going well, right? So I really do have to take the time to care for myself. And so I got to the point in, I want to say July, where I just realized that it was time for me to go back on the antidepressants. And from then until now, I continue to do my, the tools that also were on the tool belt to use in addition to the antidepressants. And that has really brought me to a place of balance. And so I like to talk about it, because I know that talking about mental health in the Black community is pretty taboo anyway. And then also I like to talk about it just because I want women out there to know that you are not alone if you're dealing with depression, if you're feeling like you just really can't handle the responsibilities of your day, you're not alone, and that there are tools and resources for you. And so I did have to get to the point where I no longer had such a stigma around it for myself. And I never judged anyone else for being on it. So please hear me say that. Never. Like, if you are on antidepressants and you've been on antidepressants, please stay on your antidepressants if they're helping you. If they're not helping you, if you're on one and it's not helping you, then go back to your doctor and you ask for another one, and you keep trying different ones until you find something that can really help you. Right. Because that was what, I have a couple friends who were, I've been on them, but I didn't like this side effect or whatever. So they're not on it and they're struggling.
Right.
And so that is my, I just really wanted to bring that message as well. And so, yeah, and I know that there are some other natural things you can do, St. John's wort, ashwagandha, there's some other things. I tried those things. I think when you're going through depression, it's harder to be on top of your self-care sometimes. So, I think that's where the taking the antidepressant comes in to being a really, it's like giving you a hand up, right? So you're trying to climb your way out of a pit. It's really helpful if somebody can throw you a rope. Right.
I think in general, people have a stigma around help. There's certain types of help they can take, and there's certain types of help they can't, because it makes them seem weak or not or something like, just not together. But guys, let's just let's just tell a big old secret and get it right out in front. We're all human beings, and ain't not one of us got it all the way together all the time. You can look at these Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever it is, because when we put out our face on these social media platforms, we're normally trying to put out the best of ourselves. And sometimes we're using it to communicate to family, friends, but it's still just one glimpse into that context of all of who we are. And so God put us in each other's lives in order to help one another. That is probably one of the greatest joys that Happy Hippy Me brings to me, at least, and I know to Pili as well. I can say it for both of us, is that your road is totally different from ours, but we help each other on our roads as we share these stories, because that perfectionism thing, it gets so many people and it's so pervasive. Like it's
so pervasive.
You don't realize that that's at the root of so much of things that you don't want to do for your own good, because taking that help admits that you don't have it together.
Right.
So, it might be something that hurts more women than men, or it might be something that hurts more women than men just because women might talk about it a bit more.
Yeah, we're more free to talk about our emotions. Yeah.
Right. A bit more vocal, but I most certainly think men deal with this as well. So my number 2 is listening is powerful and telling. Listening is powerful and it is also telling. So my sister has been saying this a lot lately, and I realized it as well. Everyone wants to talk, but nobody really wants to listen. There's a little, like, I don't know if it's a proverb or just a saying, but we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them proportionately. And even Stephen Covey, first seek to understand, then be understood. And so I've grown a deeper appreciation, I think, for listening to the people who are speaking, opposed to thinking that I already know what they're about to say, or just running off of the script that they may have already set, because maybe I know this person a little bit, so I'm already discounting whatever they're saying in the moment, or just because I don't have much time and I'm like, okay, it's time for us to go do something else and I'm trying to rush. When you listen to what people are saying, that means that you're really in the moment. It also means that you can shoot back maybe a couple of questions to make sure that you're understanding, or just to affirm them so that they know that you are listening. But it tells you a lot about the person you're dealing with, especially if they're just when people talk, it's a behavior, and behaviors don't lie. So over time, maybe their words can tell you, oh, I'm fine. And then as they continue to tell you their story, everything they just listed shows you a day that's not fine. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. Or that they just went through a divorce, a move, losing a parent. And you're like looking at them smile and you're like, okay, I know. So listening to me is what people say, and listening, observing what they're doing. And that once again drives me back to that point of compassion. When you do that, you can start to kind of see where the edges are kind of frayed, and where somebody might, just need a little extra bit of grace, So that's something that I think my listening skills are hoping to do for me. Yeah.
That's good stuff. All right. So what I was thinking about, with yours, is that your first one was a more internal one, starting with self-compassion. And then you move to a more, external one that has to do with how you relate to society. And I think that's awesome, because you have to start here first before you're able to do this well, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, hey, there's another lesson. But
I know.
Okay. So my third is, this year I learned how to define my value. And I want to make a very big distinction between value and worth. Okay. Ooh. So my worth is set has no bearing on what I do, where I come from, who I am. It's just by the virtue of being a sentient being who has been filled by a spirit, who has cells and a body that works together, who has a mind and the ability to use the mind. I am worthy, and my value, my worth is just priceless, right? It's just, my worth is set, and I don't have to try to earn my worthiness. Now, the reason that that's important to me is because I think a lot of times we have a hard time believing that we're worthy.
Yeah.
We have a hard time believing that we're worthy. And this brings me back to point number one. When I did the work, often my thoughts that led to emotions would range around the idea of worthiness, being enough, and not being, right? So I really had to work that. Then, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a person who offers service to others, I'm a yoga teacher, I work with people one-on-one, and I'm an aromatherapist. So I work with people one-on-one to help them to feel well. And I love doing it, right? It's a passion project for me. It's something that I moved into because it was my natural inclination to do this. I want people to feel well and live empowered lives. And I recognize that it's not just one thing, but it's a holistic thing. And I found that nothing else like yoga and aromatherapy combined can hit all of the pieces, mind, body, and soul. It's amazing. So, but I had to get really good at defining what my value is, because as a person who is not working for anyone else, I have to be able to set my pricing, and I have to be able to set, this is what I need to work for, this is what I will work for, and nothing less. And that is super, super scary when you're starting your own business, right? Because at first you're thinking, I just need clients, I just need clients, I just need people in the door. I'll give you discounts, I'll do it for free, whatever it is, just come in the door, and what is the reason behind that? It's to find legitimacy. So again, it's to find that worthiness, right? Yeah. So I had to really solidify that I am a yoga teacher, I'm a yoga therapist, and I am an aromatherapist. And that is regardless of whether I ever get a client or not, because that's who I am. That's what I do. I do that on a daily basis. I do it for myself, my family. I do it for the people I talk to. I recognize that I actually need to stop being so free with the information that I have amassed over the last 4 years, you know what I mean? And stop being so let me just tell you what you should do, because it is a service that I offer. But what I had to recognize was my value is separate from my worth. My worth will always be, and then I can set my value in terms of my price point for my services. And it's hard too, because I really have to toe that line between, well, what happens when somebody says, oh, your price is too much? Then I have to sit with that, and I have to say, okay, but did I set my value? Do I know the services that I offer? Do I know how much time and training and studying and showing up to do the work that I've had to do to be ready to open the door and say, hey, I have a way to help you with the issues and the struggles that you have in your life. Come work with me. So I feel like that has been a huge turning point in both my willingness to move forward and talk to people and tell them what I do, and also in my willingness to really be very open with, this is what I charge, and this is what the work is about, and not feeling ashamed about that, because everybody has to, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to know, well, how much is your time worth? right? How much is your time worth? How much is all the back that you have been putting in to establish yourself? How much is all that worth? And that was a hard thing for me because, you know, for me, I grew up in the whole get a degree, get a job, work for somebody else, get a 401k, get a pension. Like that's the dream. And then for me to decide to pivot course correct and then say, hey, I'm actually going to establish my own company and I'm actually going to work with people that I choose to work with. And I'm actually going to be choosy, right? Because this is my business. I get to decide, yes, I want to work with you, or no, I don't want to work with you. But in order for me to be able to do that, I have to know my own value. I have to set my value. And the only way I can set my value is that I get completely unnerved, totally totally stable in the fact that I am completely and utterly worthy. And so that was my big takeaway of this year.
I love that, Pili. You know, that resonates with me. You're a bit further along in establishing your brand and your entrepreneurial business because I felt that teeter-totter and that like, well, no, this is, I am Wendi with an I. Some days it was like, I am Wendi with an I. And some days like, yeah, I'm Wendi with an I. And some days like, I'm Wendi with an I. Like it was this, you know, because you have the view of what people see you as. You have the view of what they see you as and what you've learned people see you as. And then in some kind of way, you are able to give you'll discount yourself sometimes because that's what you've been, you know, taught to do. And that's what you've learned. So changing that mind frame, absolutely life-giving. And I'd even want to share something that I learned when I used to work for Chipotle. I love the Chipotle story. I used to work for them in college. And then when I graduated, I worked for their first store here in LA, not their first one, but the one they opened up in the Beverly Center, which is no longer there now. And this is when people were still mispronouncing the name and calling it Chipotle. Like, it's hard to believe that Chipotle hasn't just always been around, but they had a very intentional marketing stream. They didn't advertise on TV. They wanted everyone to think that their Chipotle was their local little like getaway place. They purposely wanted a cult following, which was kind of key. And then they believed in their food having integrity. And they would either require you pay full price, whatever the value they set, or they would give it away, offer it as a gift for free, knowing that you would return. But that was it. They weren't, at least at that time, going to discount their food. And that just like, I thought that was like the neatest thing in the world. Because everywhere you go, marketing tells you, do a promotion, do a promotion. Let me tell you, people are smart. If you give enough promotions like that, people will wait to stock up on your semi-annual sale and buy everything they want and need to last them until that next annual sale. So it's important to know your value and to be confident in it. So yeah, that's great. I thought that was really cool. So my number 3, guys, my number 3 takeaway for 2018 is I have learned to welcome the unlikely teacher. Sometimes the person who is going to give you a lesson is not the person that is your mentor. It's not your actual instructor or somebody older. I think we sometimes take information from somebody who's been there, done that a little bit better because it's like, okay, they're an authority figure. It's harder to take it from sometimes our peers, our significant others, or even our students, our kids, the people who are our subordinates, you know, in certain respects. But I have definitely learned to take the teaching that comes in all of the different ways that it comes, because if you're paying attention and you're not judging it, some really cool lessons come from the mouths of babes, right? Or just from these unlikely sources, even from people who you might not necessarily see eye to eye with on a lot of things, people who can sometimes even serve to kind of upset you. If you just listen to them without all the judgment, it can really be some life-giving information that they offer up. So I thought that was key. Because what it does too, sometimes when I listen to those people, in those times when I'm able to get the lesson, I'm not getting it in a way that's comfortable for me. It's not it's not me listening to Brene Brown, somebody who like, oh yeah, we're speaking the same language. I can listen to her teach me something all day. But if I'm getting it from something that kind of rubs me the wrong, I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong ways. I'm still finding a way to explain this one because I don't want to make it a negative thing, but it's just not a natural fit. You know, I kind of have to work with it a bit. That doesn't mean that the lesson they're giving me, if it comes a tougher kind of way, like a little bit of tough love, it definitely doesn't discount the lesson and the need for me to receive that information. So a lot of decisions that I've made in 2018 have come from the unlikely teacher and things that I probably in the past wouldn't have been up to even listen to because it was just like so off what I wanted to hear.
Right.
But it's definitely ushered me into a new place of my life because I got out of my comfort zone. So that's kind of how all that comes together. And that's been said many times. You cannot stay in your comfort zone and expect to get new results and those breakthrough results.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, even if you just think about the image of a tree, you know, sapling coming out of the ground, right? It has to work so hard underneath the surface at such a young age just to be able to break through that soil the first time. And imagine if it was like, this ground is too hard, this journey is too long, it's too dark down here, I'll never make it. Imagine if it just never pushed through that effort to become what it was meant to become. And I feel that that's something that we all have the option of doing. We can choose to just stay in the darkness and not move into that future that we hope and dream for ourselves, that when we close our eyes just before we go to bed, that we're kind of wishing that we had, but then we quickly wipe it away because of the laundry list of impossible thoughts that we have, right? But if we could see ourselves as this little tree sapling who is able to push through that soil, to move through the darkness, and then push through to that first glimmer of light, like that is how we become who we're meant to be. And so I feel like that is something that I'm taking with me into 2019 as well. Like I have the track record of saying, I have gone through the darkness. I have gone through, pushed through the hard soil. I've worked my way through the twigs and the earthworms and all the things that would try and, you know, sap my life away, the weeds and all those things. And still I'm pushing, still I'm rising, you know, so.
Right. Pili, I didn't talk about this, so I'm just going to throw you a lob. It's or like a freestyle. Okay. So one thing that we're going to face 2019 with, you said a couple of things, and now I said on my funny little basketball lingo, and I almost forgot what I was about to say. Darn it. It's in my subject of this thing. It's going to come back to me, guys. See, this is one of those unplugged, non-perfect moments. But the long story short, what are you going to take into 2019? I think one of the things that when you were talking about that, I've run into a lot of people who are new entrepreneurs. And a lot of that is because of the way that life is working right now. There's so much opportunity with new technology. There's so much just people are not satisfied at their current jobs. People have these dreams, and there's actually less barriers to entry if they just, learn how to do some things. So I'm learning that when people talk about there not being like a cohesiveness with folks and people not having time, a part of it is because there are many people who are all in this little sapling stage of their business and figuring things out. And it takes so much concentration and so much energy.
Mhm.
I personally think that is, I don't know. I just, one of the things that I want to bring into 2019 is figuring out a way to make sure that I'm still available to the people who matter to me.
Mhm.
Even if it's scheduling like just some kind of like just, coffee date, if it's online or whatever, but like, some kind of a something to where all of the attention that is so scattered with our family and all of our obligations, we still make time for that actual human connection. Because isn't it easy? I don't know if that, I guess it's the work-life balance thing, but it's even more difficult when you're starting your own business and when you're like growing
Right.
that business. And so much of it relies on your energy.
I mean, it's very similar to the first few years of having a child, right? Like you lose so many friends, especially if these friends are people that don't have that same phase of life that you're in,
Right.
because all of your focus is on keeping this tiny little human alive. And then you sometimes have to remember to take a shower, or you sometimes have to remember to pick up something in your house or whatever. And
Right.
we're so afraid of showing people our off face, right? Showing people, oh, I don't have on matching clothes and my hair is a mess and my house is toe up, right? But basically, because I did want that human interaction and I knew how much that was important to me, I basically told every new friend that I was making, listen, if you're the type of friend that feels the need to clean your house before I come over, then I just want to let you know that you never have to apologize to me for your house being a mess, because my house will always be a mess, okay? Because I have chosen that is not my primary, that's not my primary goal, is to
Right.
have a clean house. Like I want my son to know I love him. I want to interact with my husband. I want to make sure we eat healthful food. I want to make sure that we don't have a lot of chemicals and the things that we put on our body and the things that we put in our body. Those are important things to me. I also want to make sure that my son learns social emotional learning skills, that he learns growth mindset, that he's willing and a person that is productive in society and who has confidence to stand up for himself and to speak his mind. That is my primary goal. For my business, I want to make sure that I'm there and available for the clients that choose me and that I choose, so that we can work together towards their goals. And that is what I'm there for. And then I do want to have friends. And so for my friends, I tell them, listen, like if you want to come over, that's fine. I'm in my pajamas. There's stuff everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is move the unfolded clothes off the couch. Let's sit down. Let's have a good time. Okay. Like that's just real.
Yeah.
And even on my Instagram, I have just recently posted that I post imperfect pictures because life is not perfect. So I may be the only person on Instagram that is not trying to clean up the house and make sure you're getting the right thing. There will be stuff in the picture. I just posted a picture of my son doing jumps, and you can see that there's all of our unwrapped Christmas gifts and the wrapping paper everywhere. Like, I did not try and clean that up because life is imperfect.
Yeah.
We are imperfect people. Mm-hmm. I want to relate to people who are not afraid to be who they are, and who are willing to be who they are, and who are willing to trust me with their, unsightly bits, so that we can be real friends.
Right. Exactly. So the cure is communicating exactly where you are.
Exactly where you are.
And then say, hey, if you can roll with that, cool.
You can roll. If you can roll. If you can't, that's cool. I'm not a Pinterest mom. We don't send out holiday cards, all of us wearing the same matching outfit. I mean, those are beautiful, and I would love to do that, but we just don't. We don't get to that. I send out a selfie picture of the family, and that's us. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very 2008. I ran out of fingers. 18. There we go. So anyway, well, everybody, I think that is a perfect place to end with authenticity moving into 2019. And we hope that you took some things away from this. If you have any questions, please hit us in the comments. Find us on Instagram at Happy Hippy Me. That is HIPPY. All right. And we will definitely see you guys in the new year. Have a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.